Imagine you're standing in the bustling heart of London, the fog curling around the cobblestone streets, the distant clip-clop of horses echoing through the night. It's 1890, and you've just heard a rumour that sends a shiver down your spine. The fastest racehorse in England, a creature worth a fortune, has vanished without a trace. The city is buzzing with whispers, and everyone's asking the same question: who could pull off such a daring theft? That's when you hear his name, Sherlock Holmes, the greatest detective in the world. You can almost see him, pipe in hand, his sharp eyes scanning for clues no one else could spot. What if you could step into his world, follow his every move, and unravel a mystery that's got the whole country talking? Buckle up, because we're diving into Sherlock Holmes and the Missing Racehorse, a tale of cunning, clues, and a chase that'll keep you glued to your screen. So, grab a cup of tea, hit that like button, and let's step into Victorian London to solve this thrilling case together. The fog hangs heavy over Baker Street, casting long shadows under the flickering gas lamps inside the cosy, cluttered rooms of 2-1B. Sherlock Holmes lounges in his armchair, his violin resting across his lap, its bow dangling loosely in his hand. The fire crackles in the hearth, casting a warm glow over the room. But Holmes's sharp eyes are distant, his mind restless, craving a challenge. Dr. John Watson, his steadfast companion, sits at the writing desk, scribbling notes in his journal, occasionally glancing at Holmes with a mix of concern and curiosity. The clock ticks past midnight, and the silence is broken by a sharp, urgent knock at the door. Mrs. Hudson, their ever-patient landlady, pokes her head in, her face edged with unease. "Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson, there's a gentleman here to see you. Says it's urgent. A Lord Reginald Ashford." Holmes's eyes snap to attention, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Show him in, Mrs. Hudson," he says, setting the violin aside. Lord Ashford bursts into the room, a tall man with a finely tailored coat and a face as pale as the fog outside. His hands tremble as he removes his hat, revealing disheveled hair, and eyes wide with panic. "Mr. Holmes," he says, his voice shaking, "I'm in desperate need of your help. My prize racehorse, Silver Blaze, has been stolen. The Grand National is in 3 days, and without him, I'm utterly ruined." Watson sets down his pen, leaning forward, his interest piqued. Holmes, however, remains still, his fingers steepled beneath his chin, his gaze fixed on Ashford. "Tell me everything," Holmes says, his tone calm but commanding. Ashford collapses into a chair, mopping his brow with a handkerchief, and begins his tale. Silver Blaze, Ashford explains, is no ordinary horse. He's a legend across England, a sleek, powerful stallion with a coat that gleams like polished silver. Unbeaten in every race he's run, his victories have made Ashford a fortune, and his presence at the upcoming Grand National is expected to draw thousands of spectators and gamblers. But last night, under the cover of darkness, Silver Blaze vanished from his stable at Ashford Manor, a sprawling estate in the rolling hills of Berkshire. The stable was locked tight. The guards stationed nearby swear they saw and heard nothing, and there's not a single hoofprint or broken latch to suggest how the horse was taken. Ashford's voice cracks as he describes the stakes, his reputation, his finances, and his family's legacy are all tied to Silver Blaze. Rumours are already swirling in London's betting circles, some whisper of sabotage by a rival owner. Others hinted an inside job by someone within the manor. "I've nowhere else to turn, Mr. Holmes," Ashford pleads. "You're my only hope." Holmes listens in silence, his eyes narrowing as he absorbs every detail. Watson, ever the practical man, jots down notes, his mind racing with questions. A horse stolen from a locked stable, with no trace? It's a puzzle that feels impossible. Yet Holmes's calm demeanor suggests he's already seeing pieces others have missed. Curious. Holmes murmurs, almost to himself, a horse of such size and value doesn't simply vanish into the ether. There's a method here, Watson, and we shall uncover it. He rises, his movements swift and purposeful, and begins packing a small valise. Lord Ashford will take the first train to Berkshire. Watson, fetch your coat. The game is afoot. The next morning, Holmes and Watson board a train bound for the countryside. The city's grime giving way to misty fields and hedgerows. Holmes is unusually talkative, his mind already dissecting the case. Consider the facts, Watson. He says, puffing on his pipe, a locked stable, no signs of forced entry, and guards who claim ignorance. What does that suggest to you? Watson, bundled in his overcoat, ventures a guess. A thief with a key, perhaps. Someone who knew the manor's routines. Holmes's eyes twinkle with amusement. A fair hypothesis, but too simple. The absence of evidence is itself a clue. We must look for what is not there as much as what is. Watson nods, though he's not entirely sure what Holmes means. That's the thing about working with Sherlock Holmes. His mind moves like a chess master. Always 3 steps ahead. At Ashford Manor, they're greeted by a nervous household. The butler, a weary man named Jenkins, leads them through the grand estate, past portraits of stern-faced ancestors and polished oak panelling. The stable master, Mr. Silas Brown, awaits them at the stables. A burly man with a weathered face and hands that fidget as he speaks. I checked on Silver Blaze. At 10. Last night, Brown says gruffly. He was there, eating his oats. By morning, he was gone. The lock wasn't tampered with, and the guards saw nothing. Holmes nods, his gaze sweeping the stable yard. The stable itself is a sturdy stone building, its heavy wooden door secured with a gleaming padlock. Inside, Silver Blaze's stall stands empty, the straw neatly arranged as if the horse had never been there at all. Holmes drops to one knee, his magnifying glass in hand, inspecting the floor with the precision of a jeweler. Watson watches, fascinated, as Holmes mutters to himself, pausing at a faint smudge in the straw, a mark so subtle it's barely visible. Look here, Watson. Holmes says, his voice low with excitement. This smudge, it's not dirt, it's wax. Candle wax, to be precise. Watson frowns, puzzled. Candle wax. But what does that mean? Holmes stands, brushing off his trousers, a faint smile playing on his lips. It means, my dear Watson, that our thief was not as invisible as they hoped. Someone was here in the dark, and they left us a gift. The manor's staff hover nearby. Their faces a mix of worry and suspicion. There's Mary, the young maid who cleans the stables, her eyes darting nervously. There's Tom, the stable boy, barely 16, who swears he slept through the night in the loft. And then there's Silas Brown, whose gruff demeanor seems to hide something, perhaps fear, perhaps guilt. Holmes questions them briefly, his tone polite but probing, while Watson takes mental notes. The air is thick with tension, and Watson can feel the weight of the mystery pressing down. This isn't just about a missing horse. It's about secrets, lies, and a crime that defies logic. As the sun dips low, painting the Berkshire hills in shades of gold, Holmes and Watson retire to the manor's guest quarters to plan their next move. Holmes is silent, his mind a whirl of deductions, while Watson can't shake the feeling that they're standing on the edge of something big. What do you think, Holmes? Watson asks, breaking the silence. Is it a rival owner? A disgruntled servant? Holmes lights his pipe, the smoke curling upward. Patience, Watson. The truth lies in the details, and we've only begun to gather them. Tomorrow, we dig deeper. This chapter is just the start of a twisting, turning mystery that'll keep you guessing. Holmes is already spotting clues no one else sees. And Watson's there to keep us grounded as the puzzle unfolds. What's the deal with that candle wax? Who's hiding something at Ashford Manor? Stick around for Chapter 2, where Holmes starts unraveling the secrets of this impossible theft. If you're loving this story, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below with your theories. Who do you think stole Silver Blaze? Let's keep the adventure going. The dawn breaks over Ashford Manor, painting the Berkshire Hills with a soft, golden light. Sherlock Holmes is up before the sun, his coat already dusted with morning dew as he paces the stable yard. Dr. John Watson, still rubbing sleep from his eyes, joins him, clutching a steaming mug of tea provided by the manor's cook. The air is crisp, and the stable looms before them, its stone walls silent but brimming with secrets. Holmes's discovery of the candle wax smudge yesterday has set his mind ablaze, and Watson can sense the detective's excitement like a hound catching a scent. What's the plan? Holmes, Watson asks, his breath visible in the chilly air. Holmes's eyes glint with purpose. We reconstruct the night, Watson. Every moment, every movement. The truth is here, hiding in plain sight. Holmes begins by retracing the thief's steps, or rather, the lack of them. The stable door, heavy in oak, shows no signs of tampering, its padlock gleaming as if untouched. Holmes examines it closely, his magnifying glass catching the morning light. No scratches, no forced entry. He murmurs. Yet Silver Blaze, a horse of considerable size, was spirited away without a sound. Watson, ever practical, points out the obvious. Could someone have had a key? The stable master, perhaps? Holmes shakes his head. Possible, but unlikely. A key leaves traces, habits, routines. We need more. He turns his attention to the stable's interior, where Silver Blaze's stall stands empty. Its straw neatly arranged, almost perfect. Holmes kneels again, his fingers sifting through the straw. He pauses, pulling out a tiny, glinting object, a bent nail, no longer than a thumbnail. Curious, he says, holding it up to the light. This nail is not from the stable's construction. It's too fine, too delicate. Watson frowns, puzzled. A nail. From what, then? Holmes pockets the find, his mind already racing ahead. Patience, Watson. Every clue is a thread, and we're weaving a tapestry. He moves to the stable's back wall, where a small window sits high above the ground, too narrow for a man to climb through, or so it seems. Holmes studies it, noting a faint scratch on the sill. Someone was careless, he says, almost to himself. Watson, trying to keep up, jots down notes, his journal filling with questions. Outside, Holmes questions the manor's staff again, this time with a sharper edge. Silas Brown, the stable master, stands with arms crossed, his face a mask of gruff indifference. I told you, Mr. Holmes, I checked the horse at 10. He was fine. I locked up and went to bed. Holmes's eyes narrow. And you heard nothing? No hoof beats, no voices. Brown shakes his head, but Watson notices his hands clench briefly. Mary, the young maid, hovers nearby, her eyes darting between Holmes and the stable master. When Holmes asks her about the night, she stammers, I was asleep, sir, in the servants' quarters. Tom, the stable boy, is more forthcoming, his teenage enthusiasm bubbling over. I sleep in the loft sometimes, sir, but I didn't hear a thing. It's like Silver Blaze just flew away. Holmes raises an eyebrow, amused. Flew, you say? An interesting theory. Holmes shifts his focus to the grounds around the stable. The earth is soft from recent rain, yet there are no hoof prints, no wheel marks from a cart that could have carried a horse away. Watson, growing frustrated, mutters, It's impossible, Holmes. A horse can't vanish like this. Holmes's smile is enigmatic. Impossible? No, Watson. Merely improbable. The absence of prints tells us as much as their presence would. He points to a patch of grass near the stable, slightly flattened. Here, something heavy rested. Not a horse, but perhaps a man or men waiting in the dark. Watson's eyes widen. You think the thief had help? Holmes doesn't answer, instead striding toward a nearby hedgerow, where he finds a scrap of cloth caught on a thorn. It's coarse, brown, and smells faintly of tobacco. Another thread, Holmes says, tucking it away. Back at the manor, Lord Ashford hosts Holmes and Watson for lunch, though his anxiety makes him a poor host. He rambles about his rivals, particularly Sir Henry Fitzroy, a rival horse owner with a reputation for ruthless ambition. He's always envied Silver Blaze, Ashford says, his fork trembling. He'd do anything to see me lose. Holmes listens politely, but Watson can tell he's skeptical. Envy is a motive, Lord Ashford, Holmes says, but motives are not evidence. We need facts after lunch. Holmes excuses himself to explore the manor's library, where he pores over maps of the estate and local area. Watson, trailing behind, watches Holmes trace his finger along a path leading to a nearby river. Water, Watson, Holmes says, it hides tracks better than any thief could hope as evening falls. Holmes and Watson return to the stable, this time under the cover of dusk, mimicking the conditions of the theft. Holmes lights a small lantern, its glow casting eerie shadows. He stands in Silver Blaze's stall, closing his eyes as if imagining the horse's final moments there. Picture it, Watson, he says softly. A thief, moving in silence with only a candle for light. They know the stable's layout, the guard's habits. They're careful, but not perfect. He points to the wax smudge again, then to the bent nail and the scratched window. These are their mistakes, small but enough. Watson feels a thrill of anticipation. Holmes is building a picture, piece by piece, and it's starting to take shape. The chapter closes with Holmes and Watson sitting by the manor's fire, the detective lost in thought, his pipe sending curls of smoke into the air. Watson tries to piece it together, the wax, the nail, the cloth, the flattened grass, but it's still a jumble. Holmes, he says, are we any closer to finding Silver Blaze? Holmes's eyes flicker with determination. Closer than you think, Watson. Tomorrow we follow the river. The thief's path is clearer now. Watson nods, his heart racing. The mystery is deepening and Holmes is in his element. We're only in chapter 2, and the clues are piling up like pieces of a shattered puzzle. What's the significance of that bent nail? Who does that scrap of cloth belong to? And why is Holmes so interested in the river? Keep watching as we dive into chapter 3, where Holmes takes the investigation to the next level. If you're hooked on this mystery, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with your guesses who's behind the theft of Silver Blaze. Let's unravel this together. The morning sun rises over the rolling Berkshire hills, its golden rays piercing the mist that clings to Ashford Manor's sprawling estate. Sherlock Holmes is already abroad, his long coat flapping as he strides toward the river that snakes. Through the eastern edge of the property, Dr. John Watson, still shaking off the grogginess of an early start, follows close behind, his boots sinking into the damp grass, his notebook tucked securely under his arm. Holmes's cryptic remark about the river last night has ignited Watson's curiosity, though he's still grappling with the puzzle pieces: candle wax, a bent nail, a tobacco-scented scrap of cloth. Holmes, why the river? Watson asks, his voice tinged with both excitement and impatience. Holmes, his eyes fixed on the ground ahead, replies without breaking stride, water, Watson, is the thief's ally. It conceals tracks, muffles noise, and offers a silent path through the night. If Silver Blaze was taken, the river holds the key to how it was done. Watson nods, his mind racing to keep up with Holmes's relentless logic. They reach the river bank, where the water flows swift and shallow, its surface shimmering like a sheet of glass under the morning light. Holmes drops to one knee, his magnifying glass catching the sun as he examines the muddy edge. The bank is a tangle of reeds and pebbles, but Holmes's sharp eyes zero in on a faint, unnatural groove in the muddy shallow indentation, too precise to be random. "Here, Watson," he says, pointing. "This is no hoof print. It's the mark of a rope, dragged with weight." Watson squints, barely making out the groove. A rope? For what purpose? Holmes traces the mark with his finger, his voice low and focused. To guide something heavy through the water, a horse, perhaps. In the river, Silver Blaze's hoofbeats would be silent, his tracks washed away. Watson's eyes widen as the idea takes hold. Could the thief have led a prize racehorse through the water? To evade detection, it's a daring plan, but Holmes's certainty makes it seem not just possible, but likely. The trail leads downstream, where the river broadens and the current slows to a gentle ripple. Holmes pauses at a cluster of willows, their drooping branches brushing the water's surface. He parts the leaves, revealing a hidden cove where the bank is trampled, as if something or someone had been dragged ashore. This is where they brought him out. Holmes declares, his voice tinged with triumph. He kneels again, sifting through the mud, and his fingers close around a single, silver-grey horsehair, unmistakable in its sheen. Silver Blaze, Watson breathes, his heart racing. "You've found proof he was here." Holmes pockets the hair, his expression cautious. "Proof of his path, Watson, not his location. We've traced the how, but the where and why remain." Watson feels a surge of excitement, tempered by the realization that the mystery is far from solved. Holmes and Watson press on, following the river's meandering path through fields dotted with wild flowers and hedgerows. The manor fades into the distance, and the landscape opens into a patchwork of small farms and cottages. Holmes's pace slows as he scans the surroundings, his mind dissecting every detail. The thief needed a place to hide Silver Blaze. He muses, somewhere nearby, yet discreet, a place where a horse could be kept without raising suspicion. Watson, trying to think like his friend, points to a hill in the distance. "There's a farm over there, isn't there? Owned by Sir Henry Fitzroy, Lord Ashford's rival. He's got motive, hasn't he?" Holmes's lips curve into a faint smile. A logical suggestion, Watson, but Fitzroy's involvement would be too convenient. "We must consider all possibilities before pointing fingers." They approach a weathered barn on the edge of a neighboring property, its wooden walls sagging under the weight of years. The door creaks open and Holmes slips inside, Watson close behind. The air is thick with the scent of hay and damp wood, and the barn is nearly empty, save for a few rusty pitchforks and a pile of straw in the corner. Holmes sweeps his magnifying glass over the floor, pausing at a faint, circular mark in the dust as if a heavy barrel had been moved recently. "This is fresh," he notes, his voice low. He brushes aside the straw, revealing a small, glinting horseshoe nail, identical to the one found in the stable. "Another nail," Watson says, his excitement bubbling over. "It's the same as before." Holmes nods, pocketing the nail. "Our thief is consistent, Watson, but not infallible. These small errors will lead us to them." Outside, Holmes questions the farmer, a grizzled man named Mr. Harrow, who leans on a pitchfork and eyes them warily. "No horses here, gents," Harrow says, his voice rough. "Just my old mule, Bessie, and she's no racehorse." Holmes's gaze is piercing, and Watson notices Harrow's eyes flicker briefly toward the river of fleeting tell. That doesn't escape the detective. "Thank you, Mr. Harrow," Holmes says politely, tipping his hat. As they walk away, Watson whispers, "You don't believe him, do you?" Holmes's reply is measured. "Belief is irrelevant, Watson. Facts are what matter, and Mr. Harrow's facts are incomplete." They return to the river bank, where Holmes traces the rope mark to a narrow wooden bridge spanning the water. On the railing, another scrap of coarse, tobacco-scented cloth clings to a splinter, matching the one from the hedgerow. "Our thief is leaving a trail," Holmes says, tucking the cloth into his pocket. Careless or perhaps overconfident, Watson feels the pieces coming together, though the full picture remains elusive. The river, the horsehair, the nails, the cloth, all clues pointing to a carefully planned theft. But by whom? And where is Silver Blaze now? Back at Ashford Manor, Holmes gathers the staff for another round of questions, his tone calm but probing. Silas Brown, the stable master, bristles under scrutiny, repeating his alibi with growing irritation. "I was in my quarters, Mr. Holmes, like I told you. I didn't hear a thing." Mary, the maid, fidgets with her apron, her voice trembling as she insists she was asleep in the servants' quarters. Tom, the stable boy, is more forthcoming, his youthful energy spilling over. "I heard a splash by the river 2 nights ago, sir," he says, eyes wide. "Thought it was a fish, but it was loud like something big." Holmes's eyes gleam at this, though he keeps his expression neutral. "A splash, you say?" Most helpful, Tom. As dusk settles over the manor, Holmes and Watson retreat to the library, spreading maps and notes across a heavy oak table. Holmes sketches the thief's likely path from the stable to the river, through the cove to the barn, and across the bridge. They moved Silver Blaze through the water to avoid tracks, he explains, tapping the map. The barn was a temporary stop, but he's been moved again, likely to a village nearby, where stables and inns could conceal him. Watson points to a cluster of buildings on the map. There's a village called Welford, just a few miles off. Plenty of places to hide a horse there. Holmes nods, his pipe sending curls of smoke into the air. "Precisely, Watson. Tomorrow we visit Welford, but we must also consider the motive. A horse like Silver Blaze isn't stolen for mere profit. There's a larger scheme here, perhaps tied to the Grand National itself." Watson feels the mystery's weight, his excitement tempered by the complexity of the case. "Holmes, we've got horsehair, nails, cloth, a rope mark, and a splash, but we're still chasing shadows." Holmes chuckles softly, his eyes alight with determination. "Shadows, Watson, but shadows cast by light. We're closing in, and our thief doesn't know it yet." He leans back, his mind a whirlwind of deductions, while Watson scribbles furiously, trying to capture every detail. The fire crackles in the hearth, and the manor grows quiet. But the thrill of the chase keeps Watson's heart pounding. We're deep in the heart of this mystery now, with clues piling up like stepping stones across a river. What's the significance of those nails? Who does that tobacco-scented cloth belong to? And what's waiting in Welford Village? Stick with us for Chapter 4, where Holmes takes the investigation into the bustling streets of the village, uncovering secrets that bring us closer to Silver Blaze. If you're loving this adventure, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below with your theories. Who's behind this daring theft? Let's keep unraveling this puzzle together. The morning air is crisp as Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson set out for Welford, a small village nestled a few miles from Ashford Manor. The sun climbs higher, burning off the mist that clings to the Berkshire fields, and the rhythmic clop of their hired carriage echoes along the dirt road. Holmes sits in silence, his sharp eyes scanning the horizon, his mind a whirlwind of calculations. Watson, clutching his notebook, feels the anticipation building. The clues from the river horsehair, a rope mark, a bent nail, and tobacco-scented cloth have pointed them here, to a village that might hold the key to Silver Blaze's whereabouts. Holmes, Watson ventures, breaking the silence. What are we looking for in Welford? A stable? A suspicious stranger? Holmes's lips twitch into a faint smile. We're looking for the unexpected. Watson, a village like Welford is a web of secrets, gossip, glances, and things left unsaid. Our thief is here, or has been, and they've left traces. The carriage rattles into Welford, a quaint cluster of stone cottages, a bustling market square, and a weathered inn called the Red Lion. The village hums with life, farmers haggling over vegetables, children darting through the streets, and the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer. Holmes directs the driver to the inn, where they'll begin their search. The Red Lion is a sturdy, ivy-covered building, its sign creaking in the breeze. Inside, the air smells of ale and wood smoke, and a handful of locals eye the newcomers with curiosity. The innkeeper, a stout man named Mr. Grayson, greets them with a wary nod. "Welcome, gents. Rooms or just a pint?" Holmes's tone is genial but probing. "Information, Mr. Grayson. We're looking into a matter concerning a horse, a rather valuable one." Grayson's face tightens, but he shrugs. "Horses are plenty round here, but none special." "What's this about?" Holmes doesn't reveal much, instead asking about recent visitors or unusual activity. Grayson claims nothing's out of the ordinary, but Watson notices his hands fidget as he polishes a glass. Holmes, ever observant, picks up on it too. "Perhaps you've seen a stranger with a coarse brown coat, smelling of tobacco?" Holmes asks. His eyes locked on Grayson's. The innkeeper hesitates, then shakes his head. "Can't say I have." But the pause is enough to spark Holmes's interest. He thanks Grayson and leads Watson outside, where they begin exploring the village's stables and barns. Places where a horse like Silver Blaze could be hidden. Their first stop is a stable, behind the blacksmith's shop, where a grizzled man named Ned is shoeing a plough horse. Holmes inspects the stalls, his magnifying glass sweeping over the floor. In one corner, he finds a pile of fresh straw, slightly disturbed, and beneath it, another bent horseshoe nail identical to those found at the manor and the barn. Another nail, Watson says, his voice a mix of excitement and frustration. "This can't be coincidence, Holmes." Holmes nods, his expression unreadable. "It's not. Our thief is either careless or marking their path deliberately." He questions Ned, who claims no knowledge of a silver-grey racehorse, but mentions a cart that passed through too. Nights ago, heading toward the village's outskirts. "Didn't see the driver clear," Ned says, "but it was late and the cart was covered with a tarp." Holmes and Watson move on, visiting a second stable near the village church. Here, the stable boy, a lanky lad named Jamie, is more talkative. "Heard some odd noises a couple nights back," Jamie says, brushing down a mare. "Thought it was a horse, but it was too quiet, like someone was trying not to be heard." Holmes presses him for details, and Jamie mentions a man in a brown coat lingering near the stable after dark, smoking a pipe. "Smelled strong, that tobacco," Jamie adds. Watson exchanges a glance with Holmes. This matches the cloth scraps they found. Holmes thanks Jamie, slipping him a shilling, and they head toward the village's outskirts. Where the cart was last seen, the road leads to a cluster of ramshackle buildings, including an old mill by the river. The mill is quiet, its wheels still, and the surrounding yard is overgrown with weeds. Holmes's eyes narrow as he spots fresh wheel marks in the dirt, leading to a shed behind the mill. The shed door is padlocked, but Holmes kneels, examining the ground. "Look here, Watson," he says, pointing to a faint hoof print, partially obscured by leaves. "It's fresh, and the size matches a thoroughbred like Silver Blaze." "Watson's. Hart races. Is he in there?" Holmes tests the padlock, finding it new and sturdy. "Perhaps. But we need more than a hoofprint to act. Breaking in risks alerting our thief instead. He searches the area, finding another scrap of tobacco scented. Cloth caught on a nail in the shed's wall. Our friend in the brown coat was here, Holmes murmurs. Back at the Red Lion. Holmes and Watson take a table in the corner, ordering a simple lunch to blend in. The inn is busy now, filled with locals and travellers. Holmes observes the crowd, his eyes catching a man at the bar, a weary figure in a coarse brown coat, his pipe sending curls of smoke into the air. Watson leans forward, whispering, "Holmes, that's him, isn't it?" Holmes's gaze is steady. Possibly. But we don't confront him yet. We watch. The man, unaware of their scrutiny, pays for his drink and leaves, heading toward the village's edge. Holmes rises, motioning for Watson to follow. They trail the man at a distance, keeping to the shadows of Welford's narrow lanes. He enters a small cottage, its windows shuttered, and Holmes notes the address. "We'll return tonight," he says. "Under cover of darkness, we'll learn more as evening falls." Holmes and Watson meet with Lord Ashford, who's arrived in Welford to check on their progress. His face is haggard, his voice desperate. "Have you found Silver Blaze, Mr. Holmes? The Grand National is tomorrow." Holmes remains calm. "We're close, Lord Ashford. The village holds answers, but we must move carefully." Ashford nods, though his anxiety is palpable. Holmes sends him back to the manor, promising an update by morning. Alone again, Watson feels the weight of the ticking clock. "Holmes, we're running out of time. If Silver Blaze isn't here, where is he?" Holmes's eyes gleam in the lamplight. "He's close, Watson. The nails, the cloth, the hoofprint, they're a trail leading us to the truth. Tonight, we close the net." The chapter ends with Holmes and Watson back at the inn, planning their nighttime investigation. The village of Welford is alive with secrets, and Holmes is peeling them back, one clue at a time. Who is the man in the brown coat? What's hidden in that shed? And will they find Silver Blaze before the Grand National? Stay tuned for Chapter 5, where Holmes ventures into the night, closing in on the thief's hideout. If you're gripped by this mystery, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with your guesses who's got Silver Blaze and why. Let's keep the chase alive. The moon hangs low over Welford, casting a pale glow across the village's cobbled streets and thatched roofs. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson wait in the shadows near the Red Lion, their breath visible in the chilly night air. The village is quiet now, save for the occasional hoot of an owl or the creak of a shutter in the breeze. Holmes's eyes are fixed on the cottage where they saw the man in the brown coat earlier that day, his mind sharp and alert. Watson, gripping his notebook tightly, feels the tension of the moment. The clues: the horsehair, the bent nails, the tobacco-scented cloth, and the hoofprint near the mill have led them here, to this moment, where the mystery of Silver Blaze's disappearance might finally unravel. "Holmes," Watson whispers, "are we confronting him tonight?" Holmes's voice is low, steady. "Not confronting, Watson. Observing. Our thief is close, and we must catch them unaware. Patience is our ally now." Holmes leads the way, moving silently through the village's narrow lanes, his dark coat blending with the shadows. Watson follows, his heart pounding, aware that they're venturing into dangerous territory. The cottage stands at the edge of Welford, its windows dark, a faint wisp of smoke curling from the chimney. Holmes pauses, studying the surroundings: a low fence, a small garden, and a narrow path leading to a shed behind the cottage, not unlike the one at the mill. He motions for Watson to stay low, and they creep closer, avoiding the crunch of gravel underfoot. At the shed, Holmes examines the door, finding another sturdy padlock, similar to the one at the mill. He kneels, his magnifying glass catching the moonlight as he inspects the ground. Another hoofprint, he murmurs, pointing to a faint impression in the dirt, partially covered by leaves. Silver Blaze was here, Watson, or very recently. Watson's pulse quickens. Is he inside? He whispers. Holmes shakes his head. Unlikely. The shed is too small to house a horse for long. But it's a link in the chain. He finds another scrap of tobacco-scented cloth caught on a splintered board, confirming their trail. The cloth, coarse and brown, matches the others perfectly. Holmes pockets it, his eyes darting to the cottage, where a faint light now flickers behind a shutter. Someone's awake, he says softly. We must be cautious. They retreat to a nearby hedgerow, where Holmes pulls out a small telescope. Peering at the cottage, through a crack in the shutter, he spots the man in the brown coat, hunched over a table, counting coins under the glow of a single candle. Our friend is busy. Holmes notes. But with what? Holmes decides to wait, hoping the man will lead them to Silver Blaze. The night grows colder, and Watson shifts uncomfortably, his legs cramping from crouching. Holmes. How long do we stay here? He whispers. Holmes's reply is calm as, long as it takes, Watson. The thief's next move will tell us more than any confrontation could. Just as Watson begins to protest, the cottage door creaks open and the man steps out, carrying a lantern. He glances around, then heads toward the shed, unlocking it with a key from his pocket. Holmes and Watson watch as he disappears inside, emerging moments later with a bundle wrapped in a tarp. Not a horse, Holmes murmurs, but something worth hiding. The man slings the bundle over his shoulder and sets off down a path leading away from the village. Toward a dense copse of trees, Holmes and Watson follow at a distance. Moving with the stealth of seasoned hunters, the man's lantern bobs ahead, guiding them through the darkness. The path winds into a wooded area, where the trees block out the moonlight, making every step treacherous. Watson clutches his revolver, a precaution Holmes had reluctantly approved, only if absolutely necessary. Watson, Holmes had warned. The man stops at a clearing where a small cart waits, hitched to a single horse, not Silver Blaze, but a sturdy draft animal. He loads the bundle into the cart and climbs aboard, urging the horse forward. Holmes signals for Watson to stay close. As they trail the cart, keeping to the underbrush, the cart rattles along a dirt track, leading to an abandoned farmhouse on the outskirts of Welford. The windows are boarded and the roof sags, but a faint glow seeps from within. Holmes and Watson creep closer, hiding behind a crumbling wall. The man unhitches the cart and enters the farmhouse, leaving the door ajar. Holmes seizes the opportunity, slipping inside with Watson behind him. The interior is sparse, smelling of mildew and hay. But in the corner, a lantern illuminates a makeshift stall. Watson's breath catches. Could it be Silver Blaze? But the stall is empty, save for a pile of straw and a bucket of oats. Holmes examines the straw, finding yet another bent nail. He was here, Holmes says, his voice barely audible. But he's been moved again. Holmes's attention shifts to the bundle the man brought in, now resting on a table. He carefully peels back the tarp, revealing a collection of racing gear bridles, reins, and a set of lightweight horseshoes, all marked with the initials S.B. Watson's eyes widen. Silver Blaze's tack. Holmes nods, his expression grim. Our thief is preparing for something, perhaps to disguise the horse or sell his gear. Before they can investigate further, footsteps approach, and Holmes pulls Watson behind a stack of crates. The man in the brown coat enters, muttering to himself, his pipe glowing in the dim light. Tomorrow's the day, he says, his voice rough. They'll never know. Holmes's eyes narrow and Watson feels a chill. Tomorrow is the Grand National. They slip out before the man notices. Retreating to the safety of the woods, Holmes's mind is racing, piecing together the clues. The thief is bold Watson, he says as they make their way back to Welford. They've hidden Silver Blaze nearby, likely planning to use him or his absence to their advantage at the race. The tack, the nails, the constant movement, it's all part of a larger scheme. Watson, breathless from the chase, asks, but who is this man and where's the horse now? Holmes's gaze is steely. We'll find out, Watson, tonight, has given us a name, the man in the brown coat. Tomorrow, we return to the manor and confront the one person who's been too quiet, back at the Red Lion. Holmes and Watson take a room, sitting by a small fire as Holmes sketches out there. Next steps. Watson's notebook is nearly full, the pages crammed with details of hoofprints, nails, and cloth scraps. Holmes, he says we're so close, but it feels like the thief is always one step ahead. Holmes lights his pipe, the smoke curling upward. Not for long, Watson. The net is tightening, and our quarry is running out of places to hide. The fire crackles, and Watson feels the weight of the ticking clock. The Grand National looms, and Silver Blaze is still out. There, somewhere, this chapter has taken us deep into the night, with Holmes and Watson hot on the trail of a shadowy figure and a missing horse. Who is the man in the brown coat? What's his plan for the Grand National? And where is Silver Blaze hiding? Stay with us for Chapter 6, where Holmes returns to Ashford Manor to confront a key suspect and uncover the next layer of this twisting mystery. If you're loving this adventure, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below with your theories. Who's behind the theft, and what's their end game? Let's keep the chase going. The first light of dawn creeps over the Berkshire Hills as Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson return to Ashford Manor, their carriage rattling along the winding road from Welford. The events of the night, the man in the brown coat, the empty stall in the abandoned farmhouse, the racing gear marked with Silver Blaze's initials have left Watson restless, his mind buzzing with questions. Holmes, however, is calm, his sharp eyes fixed on the horizon, his pipe sending faint curls of smoke into the morning air. Holmes, Watson says, breaking the silence, we've got a trail of clues, nails, cloth, horsehair, and now that tack, but we're no closer to Silver Blaze. Who was that man, and what's his game? Holmes's voice is steady, almost amused. Patience, Watson. The man in the brown coat is a piece of the puzzle, but the heart of this mystery lies here, at the manor. Today, we confront the one who's been hiding in plain sight. They arrive at Ashford Manor, where the household is already stirring, the staff bustling with nervous energy as the Grand National looms just hours away. Lord Ashford greets them in the drawing room, his face etched with worry. "Mr. Holmes, any news?" he asks, wringing his hands. "The race is today, and without Silver Blaze, I'm finished." Holmes's expression is unreadable as he assures, "Ashford, they're making progress. We need to speak with your staff again, Lord Ashford," he says, "particularly Mr. Silas Brown." Watson catches the emphasis on the stablemaster's name and feels a jolt of anticipation. Brown, with his gruff demeanor and evasive answers, has been a quiet presence in the investigation, but Holmes's focus suggests he's about to become central. Holmes and Watson find Silas Brown in the stable yard, mucking out an empty stall with a scowl. His broad shoulders tense as Holmes approaches, his eyes narrowing. "Mr. Brown," Holmes begins, his tone polite but firm, "we've uncovered evidence suggesting Silver Blaze was moved through the river and hidden briefly in Welford. Care to explain why you've been so reticent about the night of the theft?" Brown's shovel pauses midair, and Watson notices a flicker of unease cross his face. "I told you, Mr. Holmes," Brown says gruffly. "I was in my quarters. Didn't hear nothing, didn't see nothing." Holmes steps closer, his gaze piercing. "And yet, Mr. Brown, a man matching your description wearing a coarse brown coat and smoking a pipe was seen in Welford, near a shed with a hoofprint from a horse like Silver Blaze. Curious, don't you think? Brown's face reddens, and he grips the shovel tighter. You're barking up the wrong tree, Mr. Holmes. I ain't been to Welford in weeks. Watson, watching closely, notes the beads of sweat on Brown's brow despite the cool morning air. Holmes pulls out the scrap of tobacco-scented cloth from his pocket, holding it up. This was found near the river, and another at a shed in Welford. The tobacco matches the brand you smoke, Mr. Brown. Shall we compare it to your coat? Brown's eyes dart to the side, and for a moment Watson thinks he might bolt. But Holmes's calm authority holds him in place. I suggest you tell us the truth, Holmes says. It will save us all time. Brown hesitates, then slumps, his bravado crumbling. All right, he mutters, tossing the shovel aside. I was in Welford that night, but I didn't steal the horse. I was meeting someone. Holmes raises an eyebrow. Meeting whom, and for what purpose? Brown's voice drops to a whisper, as if afraid of being overheard. A man named Carter. He's a bookie, works the races. Said he had a tip about the Grand National, something that could make me a fortune. I went to hear him out, that's all. Watson frowns, skeptical. And you didn't notice a horse being stolen from your own stable? Brown shakes his head. I swear. I locked up tight. When I got back, Silver Blaze was gone. Holmes's eyes narrow, assessing Brown's story. This Carter describe him. Brown shifts uncomfortably. Weary fellow. Brown coat, always smoking a pipe. Keeps to himself, but he's got connections in the racing world. Watson's pulse quickens. Carter sounds like the man they trailed last night. Holmes presses further. And what was this tip? Brown hesitates, then admits he said Silver Blaze wouldn't run today. Didn't say why, just that I should bet against him. I thought he was daft. Silver Blaze is a sure thing. Holmes's expression hardens. Unless, of course, Silver Blaze doesn't race at all. Holmes dismisses Brown but instructs him to stay at the manor. As they walk away, Watson whispers, "Do you believe him, Holmes?" Holmes's reply is cryptic. His story holds water, Watson, but only just. He's not our thief, but he's entangled in this web. Carter is the key, and we must find him before the race begins. They return to the manor's library, where Holmes spreads out his map of Welford, marking the cottage, the mill, and the abandoned farmhouse. Carter's moving Silver Blaze to keep him hidden, Holmes explains, tracing a line between the locations. The tack we found suggests he plans to use the horse, perhaps in disguise, or profit from his absence. The Grand National is the stage for his scheme. Watson, piecing it together, suggests, could Carter be working for someone else, like Sir Henry Fitzroy, trying to sabotage Ashford? Holmes nods thoughtfully. Possible, but Fitzroy's involvement would be too obvious. A bookie like Carter likely serves his own interests or those of a betting syndicate. The bent nails, the cloth, the constant movement all point to a plan to manipulate the race's outcome. Holmes's mind races, and Watson can almost see the connections forming. They decide to return to Welford immediately, aiming to track down Carter before the Grand National begins. Holmes sends a telegram to Inspector Gregory at Scotland Yard, requesting he meet them in Welford with a few constables, just in case. As they board a carriage back to the village, Watson feels the urgency mounting. The Grand National is mere hours away, and Silver Blaze is still missing. Holmes, he says, what if we're too late? What if Carter's already moved the horse beyond our reach? Holmes's eyes gleam with determination. Then we'll find him, Watson, wherever. He's gone. The clues are aligning, and Carter's mistakes are mounting. He's not as clever as he thinks. The carriage speeds toward Welford, the fields burring past, and Watson clutches his notebook, ready to record the next twist in this intricate case. This chapter has brought us closer to the heart of the mystery, with Silas Brown's confession and the shadowy figure of Carter emerging as the key to Silver Blaze's disappearance. Who is Carter, and what's his plan for the Grand National? Will Holmes and Watson find the horse in time? Stay tuned for Chapter 7, where the chase intensifies in Welford, and Holmes closes in on the elusive bookie. If you're hooked on this thrilling tale, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below with your guesses. What's Carter's endgame, and where is Silver Blaze? Let's keep unraveling this mystery together. The sun climbs toward its zenith as Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson's carriage races back to Welford, the wheels kicking up dust on the narrow Berkshire road. The urgency of the Grand National, now mere hours away, weighs heavily on Watson, his notebook open on his lap, filled with scribbled details of horsehair, bent nails, tobacco-scented cloth, and the mysterious Carter. Holmes, seated opposite, is a study in calm intensity, his sharp eyes scanning the passing fields, his mind weaving together the threads of the case. Holmes, Watson says, his voice tight with anticipation. If Carter's the key, how do we find him in time? Welford's small, but he could be anywhere. Holmes's reply is measured, his tone laced with confidence. Carter's boldness is his weakness, Watson. He's left a trail nails, cloth whispers of his presence. We'll find him, and with him Silver Blaze. The carriage pulls into Welford's bustling market square, where villagers haggle over fresh produce and the air hums with the excitement of race day. The Red Lion Inn looms ahead, its sign swaying in the breeze. Holmes directs the driver to stop, and they step out, blending into the crowd. Holmes's plan is clear. Track down Carter, the weary bookie in the brown coat. Who's Silas Brown implicated as a central figure in the theft? The telegram to Inspector Gregory has ensured backup, but Holmes prefers to move swiftly. Before Carter can slip away again, we start at the cottage, Holmes says, leading Watson toward the narrow lane where they trailed Carter the previous night. He's close, Watson, and he's running out of time to execute his scheme. The cottage looks different in daylight, its stone walls weathered but sturdy, its garden overgrown with weeds. The shutters are closed, but a thin wisp of smoke curls from the chimney, suggesting someone's inside. Holmes knocks sharply, his demeanor polite but commanding. The door creaks open, revealing a woman middle-aged, with sharp eyes and a guarded expression. "What do you want?" she asks, her tone wary. Holmes tips his hat. "Good day, madam. We're looking for a Mr. Carter, a gentleman known to frequent this cottage." The woman's face tightens and she shakes her head. "No, Carter here. You've got the wrong place." But Watson notices her glance toward the shed behind the cottage, a fleeting tell that Holmes catches too. "Thank you," Holmes says smoothly, stepping back. "We'll trouble you no further." As they move away, Holmes murmurs, "She knows." "Carter, Watson, that glance was no accident. The shed is our next stop." They circle to the back, keeping out of sight from the cottage windows. The shed's padlock gleams in the sunlight, but Holmes's keen eyes spot something new, a faint smudge of mud on the door, fresh and streaked, as if someone had brushed against it recently. He kneels, examining the ground, and finds another hoofprint, smaller than Silver Blaze's but recent, alongside a cigarette butt, its tobacco scent matching the cloth scraps. "Carter's been here," Holmes says, pocketing the butt, but he's moving again, likely anticipating the race. Holmes decides to split their efforts to cover more ground. He sends Watson to check the village's stables and inns for any sign of a silver grey horse, while he investigates the mill and the abandoned farmhouse from the previous night. Watson, though nervous about working alone, nods and heads off, his revolver tucked discreetly in his coat, at the village's main stable. He questions the stable boy, Jamie, who's sweeping out a stall. "Any new horses come through, lad?" Watson asks, trying to mimic Holmes's authoritative tone. Jamie scratches his head. "Not new, sir, but there was a cart early this morning heading toward the old quarry road, covered with a tarp, like before." Watson's heart leaps. This matches the cart Ned mentioned. He thanks Jamie and hurries to the inn, where the innkeeper, Mr. Grayson, is wiping down the bar. "Seen a man in a brown coat today?" Watson asks. Grayson shrugs, but his eyes flicker, just as they did before. "Lots of folks come through, sir. Can't keep track of 'em all." Watson senses he's hiding something, but lacks Holmes's knack for pressing further. Meanwhile, Holmes revisits the mill, its silent while casting long shadows. The shed's padlock is still secure, but he finds fresh wheel marks leading away toward the quarry road Jamie mentioned. Holmes's mind races. Carter is moving Silver Blaze again, likely to a final hiding place before the race. He searches the shed's exterior, finding another bent nail half buried in the dirt, its head gleaming faintly. "Sloppy," Holmes mutters, adding it to his collection. He follows the wheel marks to the quarry road, a rutted path leading to an isolated stretch of land where old stone pits dot the landscape. There, hidden behind a crumbling wall, he spots a small barn, its door ajar. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of hay and horse, and Holmes's pulse quickens. He finds a stall with fresh straw and a bucket of water, but no horse. A single silver-grey hair clings to the wall, confirming Silver Blaze's recent presence. So close. Holmes whispers, his eyes scanning for more clues. Holmes reunites with Watson in the market square, where Watson shares his findings. The cart. Holmes, it's headed to the quarry road. Holmes nods, his expression grim. "I've been there. Silver Blaze was in a barn, but he's been moved again." Carter's playing a game of cat and mouse, but he's underestimated. U.S. Just then, Inspector Gregory arrives with 2 constables, his face stern but eager. "Mr. Holmes, we got your telegram." "What's the situation?" Holmes briefs him quickly, outlining Carter's likely plan to manipulate the Grand National, either by hiding Silver Blaze or entering him in disguise. "We need to search the quarry area." Holmes says, "Carter's running out of time, and so are we." The group heads to the quarry, moving cautiously to avoid alerting Carter. The landscape is rugged, with overgrown paths and abandoned pits, perfect for hiding a horse. Holmes spots fresh cart tracks leading to a cluster of trees, where a small, makeshift stable stands, camouflaged with branches. He signals for silence, and they approach, hearing a soft whinny from within. Watson's heart races. Could this be it? Holmes peers through a gap in the boards, his eyes widening. Inside, a horse stands, its coat dyed a dull brown, but its powerful build and graceful neck betray its identity. Silver Blaze, Holmes breathes. Before they can act, a figure emerges from the shadows. Carter, his brown coat unmistakable, a lantern in one hand and a whip in the other. "Who's there?" He snarls, spotting the group. Holmes steps forward, his voice calm but commanding. "Mr. Carter, your game is over. Return Silver Blaze and things may go easier for you." Carter's eyes dart wildly, but the constables move in, blocking his escape. He drops the whip, cursing under his breath, and Holmes signals for Gregory to take him into custody. Watson checks the horse, confirming it's Silver Blaze, his coat clumsily dyed but unharmed. "We've got him, Holmes." Watson exclaims, relief flooding through him. Holmes nods, but his expression remains focused. The horse, yes, but the motive. "Watson, that's what we need now." As the constables secure Carter, Holmes searches the stable. Finding a satchel filled with betting slips and a ledger detailing wagers against Silver Blaze. In the Grand National, a betting syndicate, Holmes says, scanning the pages. Carter planned to profit by ensuring Silver Blaze didn't run, driving up the odds for other horses. Watson shakes his head, amazed at the audacity. And a die. Was he going to race him in disguise? Holmes shrugs. Possibly, or sell him later. But we've stopped him in time. The chapter closes with Silver Blaze being led back to Ashford Manor, the constables escorting Carter to the local jail. Holmes and Watson ride behind. The weight of the case lifting, but questions lingering. Was Carter acting alone? Or is there a larger force behind him? Will Silver Blaze race in? Time! Stay tuned for Chapter 8, where Holmes unravels the final threads of this intricate plot. If you're gripped by this chase, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with your thoughts. Who else might be involved? Let's keep solving this mystery together. The late morning sun bathes Ashford Manor in a warm glow as Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson oversee the return of Silver Blaze. The magnificent racehorse now safely back in his stable. The manor is abuzz with relief, the staff bustling to prepare the horse for the Grand National, which is now mere hours away. Lord Ashford, his face a mix of gratitude and exhaustion, shakes Holmes's hand vigorously. Mr. Holmes, you've saved me. Silver Blaze can race and my reputation is intact. Holmes nods, his expression calm but guarded. Watson, however, senses that the detective's mind is still at work, turning over the betting slips and ledger found in Carter's satchel. Holmes, Watson says as they step away. From the jubilant crowd, we've got the horse and Carter's in custody. Is the case closed? Holmes's eyes glint with that familiar spark of unfinished business. Not quite, Watson. Carter is a pawn in a larger game. Those betting slips point to a syndicate, and I intend to find out who's pulling the strings. Holmes and Watson retreat to the Manor's library, where Inspector Gregory joins them, his notebook open and his expression eager for Holmes's next move. The satchel, now spread across a polished oak table, contains a wealth of evidence, betting slips naming other horses in the Grand National, a ledger detailing massive wagers against Silver Blaze, and a cryptic note scrawled in Carter's hasty hand. Meet at the Lion, midnight, odds fixed. Holmes examines the note, his fingers tracing the ink. The Red Lion in Welford, he says. Carter wasn't acting alone. This syndicate planned to profit by ensuring Silver Blaze's absence, manipulating the odds for their chosen horses. Watson frowns, piecing it together. So they stole Silver Blaze to rig the race. Holmes nods. Precisely. But a syndicate requires a leader, someone with influence and resources. Holmes turns his attention to the ledger, its pages filled with coded initials and sums. He deciphers a few entries, noting payments to SF and J.H. Watsons. Eyes widen. SF, could that be Sir Henry Fitzroy, Ashford's rival? Holmes's lips twitch into a faint smile. A tempting theory, Watson. But we mustn't leap to conclusions. Fitzroy's envy of Ashford is well known, but envy alone doesn't make a mastermind. We need evidence. Holmes sends Gregory to Welford to inquire about the midnight meeting at the Red Lion, instructing him to watch for anyone matching the initials. Meanwhile, Holmes and Watson head to the stable to ensure Silver Blaze is fit to race, as any tampering could still derail Ashford's chances. At the stable, Silas Brown is grooming Silver Blaze, his gruff demeanor softened by the horse's return. Holmes examines the stallion closely, checking for signs of injury or drugging. The dye on Silver Blaze's coat has been washed off, revealing his gleaming silver-grey hide, and his eyes are bright, his muscles taut. He's in fine form, Holmes says, patting the horse's flank. But as he inspects the stall, he finds another bent nail tucked in a corner, half hidden by straw. Curious, Holmes murmurs, holding it up. Carter's signature, even here. Watson frowns, but Carter's in jail. Could someone else be involved? Holmes pockets the nail, his mind racing. Someone who worked with Carter, perhaps, or someone who wanted us to think Carter acted alone. Holmes questions Brown again, probing for any connection to the syndicate. Brown, still shaken from his earlier confession, insists he only met Carter for the betting tip. I didn't know he'd stolen the horse, Mr. Holmes, I swear. Holmes's gaze is piercing. And you never saw anyone else with him? No one. From the Manor or Welford? Brown hesitates, then mentions a name. There was a fellow at the inn once with Carter. Didn't catch his name, but he had a posh way about him, like he didn't belong in Welford. Watson's pulse quickens. A gentleman. Could it be Fitzroy? Holmes remains non-committal. We'll see. For now, we return to Welford. Back in the village, Holmes and Watson meet Gregory at the Red Lion, where the innkeeper, Mr. Grayson, is wiping down tables with his usual guarded demeanor. Gregory reports no activity at the midnight meeting, but he's learned from locals that a well-dressed man was seen with Carter days before the theft. Speaking in hushed tones, they called him the Toff, Gregory says. Not a regular, but he carried himself like he owned the place. Holmes's eyes narrow. A Toff, indeed. Someone with means and motive. We need to draw him out. Holmes devises a plan. Spread word that Silver Blaze is back and racing, forcing the syndicate to act before the Grand National begins. Holmes instructs Gregory to leak the news in Welford's betting circles while he and Watson visit the racecourse, a sprawling field just outside London where the Grand National is set to unfold. The air is electric with anticipation, crowds already gathering, bookies shouting odds, and horses being led to their stalls. Holmes scans the scene, noting the flurry of bets being placed against Silver Blaze. Despite his return, the syndicate hasn't adjusted their plan, he says. They're still betting on his absence or something else. Watson spots a familiar face in the crowd, Sir Henry Fitzroy, his tailored coat and haughty air unmistakable. Holmes, there's Fitzroy, Watson says, pointing. Holmes observes him, noting his calm demeanor as he places a large bet on a rival horse, Thunderbolt. Holmes approaches Fitzroy, his tone polite but probing. Sir Henry, a fine day for the races. Confident in your wager? Fitzroy's smile is thin. Always. Mr. Holmes, Thunderbolt's a sure thing, especially with Silver Blaze's troubles. Holmes's eyes glint. Troubles that have been resolved, I hear. Silver Blaze is racing. Fitzroy's smile falters, but he recovers quickly. Good for Ashford, then. May the best horse win. As Fitzroy walks away, Watson whispers, he knows something, Holmes. Holmes nods. He may, but we need proof. Let's watch the bets and the bookies. As the race approaches, Holmes stations himself near the betting stalls where he spots a familiar figure, Mr. Grayson from the Red Lion, passing a note to a bookie. Holmes intercepts the note discreetly, finding it lists odds heavily favoring Thunderbolt. Grayson's part of it, Holmes says to Watson. He's the link between Carter and the syndicate's leader. With Gregory's help, they detain Grayson for questioning and under pressure. He admits to passing messages for a gentleman who promised a cut of the profits. Didn't know his name, Grayson says, sweating, but he was at the inn same night as Carter. Wore a fancy pin shaped like a horseshoe. Holmes's mind clicks. The horseshoe pinpoints to Fitzroy, who was seen wearing one earlier. With time running out, Holmes sends Gregory to bring Fitzroy in for questioning, while he and Watson rush to ensure Silver Blaze is safely delivered to the racecourse. The chapter ends with the crowd roaring as the horses line up, Silver Blaze gleaming under the sun. Holmes, watching from the sidelines, knows the case isn't over. "The race is on, Watson," he says. "But the real prize is catching the mastermind. The syndicate's web is unraveling, but the mastermind remains just out of reach. Is Fitzroy the key, or is there another player in this game? Will Silver Blaze win the race and the case?" Stay tuned for Chapter 9, where Holmes closes in on the truth as the Grand National unfolds. If you're loving this mystery, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with your guesses who's behind the syndicate. Let's race to the finish together. The roar of the crowd at the Grand National Racecourse fills the air, a tidal wave of excitement as thousands pack the stands, their eyes fixed on the gleaming horses parading toward the starting line. The sun beats down on the sprawling field. Outside London, where Silver Blaze, his silver-grey coat restored to its full glory, prances with restless energy, unaware of the drama surrounding his return. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson stand near the stables, their focus split between the impending race and the elusive mastermind behind the theft. The betting slips, the ledger, the horseshoe pin pointing to Sir Henry Fitzroy, it all suggests a syndicate, aiming to profit from Silver Blaze's absence. But Holmes knows the case hinges on catching the leader before they can vanish into the chaos of race day. "Holmes," Watson says, his voice barely audible over the crowd, "Fitzroy's here, and Grayson's talking. Are we close to ending this?" Holmes's eyes scan the bustling scene, his expression steely. "Close, Watson, but the final move is yet to be played. Stay sharp." Holmes has instructed Inspector Gregory to keep Sir Henry Fitzroy under surveillance, with 2 constables shadowing the aristocrat as he mingles with the crowd, his confident demeanor unshaken. The news of Silver Blaze's return has spread like wildfire, and the betting stalls are in a frenzy, odds shifting rapidly as punters scramble to adjust their wagers. Holmes notices the bookies' agitation, particularly one a weary man with a nervous tick who's frantically updating his board. "That's our man," Holmes murmurs to Watson, nodding toward the bookie. "He's tied to Grayson and Carter, part of the syndicate's chain." Watson clutches his notebook, his heart racing. Do we confront him now? Holmes shakes his head. Not yet. We let the race begin. The syndicate's plan depends on Silver Blaze's performance or lack thereof. Holmes and Watson move closer to the stables, where Lord Ashford is overseeing Silver Blaze's final preparations. The jockey, a young man named Peter, is tightening the saddle, his hands steady despite the pressure. Holmes examines the tack, ensuring no sabotage has occurred since the horse's return. All seems in order, Holmes says, running his fingers along the reins. But as he inspects the saddle, he pauses, noticing a faint residue on the leather, a sticky, colorless substance barely visible. Interesting. Holmes murmurs, scraping a sample into a vial. Watson, this could be a sedative, applied to slow Silver Blaze during the race. Watson's eyes widen. The syndicate's still at work. Holmes nods. They didn't expect us to recover the horse, but they've planned for contingencies. Holmes sends the vial to a local chemist for analysis, instructing Gregory to guard Silver Blaze until the race begins. Meanwhile, he and Watson weave through the crowd, keeping an eye on Fitzroy, who's now deep in conversation with the nervous bookie. Holmes's telescope, discreetly used, reveals Fitzroy slipping a small envelope to the bookie, who tucks it away quickly. Evidence, Holmes says, his voice low. Fitzroy's orchestrating the bets, but he's careful not to be seen directly with Carter's crew. Watson, growing impatient, asks, why not arrest him now? Holmes's reply is calm. Because, Watson, we need him to reveal the full scope of the syndicate. An arrest now scares off the others. As the race's starting bell approaches, Holmes positions himself near the betting stalls. where Grayson, released under watch, is nervously passing messages. Holmes intercepts another note, this one detailing a plan to collect winnings at a specific bookmaker's tent after the race. They're betting on Thunderbolt, Fitzroy's horse. Holmes says, showing Watson the note, if Silver Blaze falters, Thunderbolt's odds soar. And the syndicate cleans up, Watson's jaw tightens. So they drugged Silver Blaze to ensure he loses. Holmes nods. Likely. But we've caught it in time. The chemist will confirm, and we'll have Fitzroy's motive nailed down. The crowd's roar crescendos as the horses line up at the starting gate. Silver Blaze, with Peter atop him, looks every inch the champion, his muscles rippling under the sunlight. Holmes and Watson watch from the sidelines, joined by Gregory, who reports that the chemist has identified the residue as a mild sedative, enough to slow a horse without causing collapse. It's subtle, Holmes says, but enough to tilt the race. We need to act before the winnings are collected. As the starting pistol fires, the horses surge forward, hooves thundering across the turf. Silver Blaze takes an early lead, his speed breathtaking, but Holmes's focus is on Fitzroy, who's watching the race with a clenched jaw. Halfway through, Silver Blaze begins to slow, his strides less fluid, and Watson grips Holmes's arm. The sedative, it's working, but Holmes remains calm, noting Peter's skill in urging the horse forward. He's fighting it, Watson. Silver Blaze is stronger than they anticipated. Thunderbolt pulls ahead, but Silver Blaze rallies, his powerful frame pushing through the haze of the drug. The crowd roars as the horses near the finish line, neck and neck. In a final burst, Silver Blaze surges past Thunderbolt, crossing the line first. The stands erupt, and Ashford's jubilant shout echoes from the owner's box. Holmes doesn't join the celebration. He signals Gregory, who moves in with the constables to detain Fitzroy. As he heads toward the bookmaker's tent, Fitzroy protests, his voice dripping with indignation, but Holmes steps forward, holding up the betting slips and the note. Sir Henry, your syndicate's plan was clever steal Silver Blaze, manipulate the odds, and drug him to ensure Thunderbolt's victory. But you underestimated the horse and us. Fitzroy's face pales, but he denies everything. You've no proof, Holmes. Holmes produces the vial of sedative residue and Grayson's confession, linking Fitzroy to the payments in the ledger. The initials SF were a careless touch, Holmes says, and your horseshoe pin betrays you. Gregory arrests Fitzroy, who's led away as the crowd buzzes with shock. Watson, exhilarated, turns to Holmes. You've done it, Holmes. The horse, the race, the syndicate, all solved. Holmes's smile is faint. Nearly, Watson. There's one final thread to tie up the roll of the manor's staff. He glances toward the stable, where Silas Brown watches the celebration with a guarded expression. Someone helped Carter get into the stable that night, and I suspect we'll find our answer there. The chapter closes with Silver Blaze being led back to the stables, the crowd still cheering his victory. Holmes and Watson linger at the racecourse, the weight of the case lifting, but one question remaining. Who at Ashford Manor betrayed Lord Ashford? Stay tuned for Chapter 10, where Holmes unravels the final secret and brings the case to a close. If you're loving this thrilling ride, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. Who's the traitor in the manor? Let's wrap up this mystery together. The sun dips low over the racecourse, casting long shadows across the jubilant crowd as Silver Blaze's victory in the Grand National reverberates through the stands. The air is thick with cheers. The clink of glasses and the rustle of betting slips as winners collect their earnings. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson stand apart from the celebration, their focus not on the race but on the final piece of the puzzle. With Sir Henry Fitzroy in custody, the betting syndicate exposed, and Silver Blaze safely returned, The case seems nearly solved, but Holmes's sharp eyes betray a lingering unease. Watson, still buzzing from the thrill of the chase, clutches his notebook, its pages brimming with details of horsehair, bent nails, tobacco-scented cloth, and the sedative that nearly cost Silver Blaze the race. "Holmes," Watson says, his voice tinged with triumph, "we've got Fitzroy, Carter, and Grayson. The syndicate's finished. Is there anything left?" Holmes's gaze shifts toward Ashford Manor, his expression resolute. "One thread remains, Watson. Someone at the manor aided Carter in the theft. Until we find them, the case is incomplete." They return to Ashford Manor in a hired carriage, the Berkshire Hills glowing golden in the fading light. Lord Ashford, elated by Silver Blaze's win, insists on hosting a celebratory dinner, but Holmes politely declines, requesting a private meeting with the staff instead. The drawing room is warm, its fire crackling as the household gathers Silas, Brown, the gruff stablemaster, Mary, the nervous maid, Tom, the eager stable boy, and Jenkins, the stoic butler. Each face carries a mix of relief and wariness, aware that Holmes's presence means the investigation isn't over. Watson watches closely, his pen ready as Holmes begins, his tone calm but commanding. Silver Blaze's theft required intimate knowledge of the manners, routines, he says, pacing slowly. The stable's lock was untouched, the guards heard nothing, and Carter, a stranger, moved with precision. Someone here provided the precision. Silas Brown shifts uncomfortably, his earlier confession about meeting Carter still hanging over him. "I told you, Mr. Holmes," he says, his voice rough, "I only met Carter for a betting tip. I didn't help him steal the horse." Holmes nods, his eyes moving to Mary, who twists her apron in her hands, her face pale. "Miss Mary," Holmes says gently, "you've been quiet throughout this affair, yet you clean the stables daily. Did you notice anything unusual the night Silver Blaze vanished?" Mary's eyes dart to the floor, her voice trembling. "I was asleep, sir. I didn't see anything." Watson notices her hands shake and Holmes's gaze sharpens. "Asleep," Holmes repeats, yet the straw in Silver Blaze's stall was neatly arranged, as if someone tidied it after the theft. "Your work, perhaps." Mary's composure cracks, tears welling in her eyes. "I didn't mean no harm, sir," she blurts, her voice breaking. The room tenses and Watson leans forward, stunned. Holmes's tone remains steady. "Tell us, Mary. The truth will serve you better than silence." Sobbing, Mary confesses, "It was Carter. He came to me a week before, said he knew my brother owes money to some rough types in London. Carter said if I helped him, he'd clear the debt. All I did was leave the stable door unlatched that night and tidy up after. I didn't know he'd take the horse." Watson's jaw drops and Evelyn Brown looks shocked. Holmes, however, is unsurprised, and the candle wax, he asks. Mary nods, tears streaming. "Carter used a candle to see in the dark. Dropped some wax, I suppose. I tried to clean it, but I missed a bit." Holmes turns to the others, ensuring no further complicity. Tom, the stable boy, is wide-eyed, insisting he heard only the splash by the river. Jenkins, the butler, claims ignorance, his demeanor unflappable. Brown, though cleared of direct involvement, admits to being swayed by Carter's betting tip. A lapse in judgment. Holmes pieces it together. Mary's small act of betrayal, leaving the door unlatched, gave Carter the opportunity, while Fitzroy's syndicate orchestrated the larger plan, using Carter as their operative. The bent nails, Holmes explains, were likely from Carter's makeshift repairs to hide Silver Blaze. A careless habit that left a trail. A simple maid, a greedy bookie, and an ambitious aristocrat. Holmes says, his voice low, each played their part, but the puzzle is now complete. Lord Ashford, listening from the doorway, is devastated by Mary's betrayal but grateful for the truth. He agrees to let the authorities handle her punishment, though he promises leniency given her coercion. Inspector Gregory, summoned to the manor, takes Mary into custody, her sobs echoing as she's led away. Holmes and Watson retire to the library, where Holmes lights his pipe, the smoke curling upward as he reflects. A curious case. Watson, he says, greed and desperation drove it, but Silver Blaze's strength and our persistence undid it. Watson, scribbling the final notes, marvels at the complexity. Holmes, how did you know Mary was the key? Holmes smiles faintly. The straw. Watson, too neat for a thief's haste, to clean for neglect. Small details betray big secrets. As night falls, the manor settles into a quiet relief, Silver Blaze resting in his stall, his victory celebrated across England. Holmes and Watson prepare to return to Baker Street, their work done. Ashford offers a generous reward which Holmes declines, asking only for a quiet dinner before they leave. Over roast and wine, Watson raises a glass to Silver Blaze and to you, Holmes, for solving the impossible. Holmes chuckles, his eyes twinkling. Not impossible, Watson. Merely a matter of observation and deduction. The case closes, with the manor's lights glowing against the dark hills, a symbol of order restored. Holmes and Watson board their train back to London, the rhythm of the rails lulling Watson into thought. The clues wax, nails, cloth, horsehair wove a trail that only Holmes could follow. And Watson feels a surge of pride in his friend's genius. What's next, Holmes? He asks as the city lights appear in the distance. Holmes's reply is cryptic. Another puzzle, Watson. The world is never short of them. This is the end of our thrilling tale. But the adventure doesn't stop here. What did you think of Holmes's deductions? Who was your favorite suspect? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you love this mystery, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories of cunning and clues. Share this video with your friends, and let's keep the detective spirit alive. Thank you for joining us on this chase until the next case. Stay curious.